My name is Caleb Boyle, and this is week 14 of the Medieval Barbarian History. Generally, Hinge, I may have butchered that name, studies the treatment of Jews, Muslims, Africans, Native Americans, Mongols, and the Romanian Gypsies to show that racial discrimination, organizations, thinking, practices, and laws existed in Europe before there was a way to describe or name them for what they were. Her examples show that, as we have studied in the past readings, that race can be subjective based on language, religion, color, literacy, geographic location, or lifestyle. Most important to this reading is how the ethnicity of civilization is described by outsiders in light of ignorance and superstitions. Her discussion on the ethnic branding of Jews in England was eye-opening, as the racial bias was started at such a early date. The Jewish minority in England were tagged with badges, herded in town with the system to monitor their lives, imprisoned for coinage offenses, taxed to the state of poverty, and finally deported as they were considered useless. Racial traits were attached to them: a special stench, a facial physiognomy, horns, and a tail, and accused of conspiring with atheists. The examples of Romanian gypsies, lifestyle, and migrations demonstrate how racial prejudice stems from ignorance and fear. The bias of their ethnicity was written record of other cultures that describe them as lazy thieves that spent their time entertained with music and dancing. In fact, the presence of the wine-growing districts was seen as coincidence, because Romania were Corinth crows who were not overly energetic and too lazy to parasitic for the hard work of vineyard cultivation. Analyzing these traits to understand medieval culture is important, in which they give insight into the caste system under which the cultures lived. I found it interesting, as in the other examples, that the trait used varied according to the circumstances. The literate, cultured, and structured societies are found to base a bias on any part of the society that they either understand or fear. Why is this an important study? Hang observes race making operants as historical occasions in which strategic assimilations are posted and assigned through a variety of practices and pressures to constitute a hierarchy of people for differential treatment. Race is thus a structural relationship for the management of human differences, a mechanism of sorting rather than the submissive content. Haig's study was, in my opinion, far more open-minded to analyzing the ethnicity of race than most of the previous readings. Instead of focusing on burial graves, geographic locations of population, surnames, or lifestyles, she investigates the cultural relevance of racial caste systems in society. Her writing, by her own admission, are case studies not intended to bare bones indicator of all the territories of racial Europe, but as an identification of specific instances of race making. The collective works demonstrate that racial casting is as diverse as the cultures or societies using them. I appreciated the inclusion of women in her discussions, as I have a hard time reading that 1,000 men marched into war and females did not play a part in the conflict. One must keep in mind that the weaknesses of historical analysis of the Middle Ages is based on limited written records. In particular, the study of the Huns and the Romanian are particularly difficult as they left little of written records. What we study is the written word of pictographs of another culture. I did not understand that John the Baptist was beheaded by a black man. It must be true. The statue is on the Cathedral of Notre Dame. I was also surprised that the Third Crusade of Richard the Lionheart, a Christian innovator, included the slaughter of Jews.